We are giving sleepover realness right now. It is a new video, guys. Hello, what is up? So I said on my last Vlogmas video and as well as my community post that I wanted you guys to send me questions so we could do kind of a big sis girl talk advice type of vibe. So that's what we finna do. That's what this is right now. And get cozy, because that is what we're doing today. Of course, as always, I thank you guys to whoever sent in questions. I know it was very short notice, but I appreciate it regardless of the fact. So I'm gonna actually start off with this one because I was literally talking to myself about it like right before I started recording this. And it says, I followed you after finding your subliminals and I'm wondering, how did manifestation impact your life in the long run? Love your vlogs, by the way. You're a natural at them. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And it's funny you mentioned that because I was just reflecting and thinking about my journey on YouTube. I've been making videos literally since I was like 9 years old. And something I really struggled with, especially around the time this channel and Ectopia started getting more audience, as well as even when I was younger and I first like got off 7up Big Dancers, that collab channel from back in the day. I had a really bad sense of imposter syndrome and just really doubting myself and thinking if YouTube was something that was just passing through in my life, or if I was actually meant to do it for a long time, or if it was meant to be my passion or not. And I realize now more than ever, and I believe now more than ever, that things that are not meant for you simply will not work out. If it is not something you desire, those things simply will not work out. I am an avid prayer and I pray a lot about a lot of things. One of those things I've always prayed about is for clarity and conviction. Clarity on the things that I need to see, the things I need to do, the things I need to pay attention to, and conviction on the things that I need to bring my attention to if it's something dawning on me that I want to think about more, or whatever the case may be, right? And I think prayer in and of itself is a type of manifestation, in a sense of you are bringing your desires or whatever before God or whoever or whatever you're praying to, laying it out and being intentional, and these are the things that you want to come to fruition into your life one way or another. And the thing with subliminals, it kind of taught me the power of you can really do anything so long as you set yourself up mentally to turn those dreams, desires, beliefs, whatever into solid thought and letting them show themselves in your 3D. And I bring up the thing I was talking about earlier about YouTube and imposter syndrome and everything, because I'm like, I'm sitting here worried about whether or not YouTube is the thing for me, or if this is what I'm supposed to do, or if people even care about what I do, when I have literally in so many phases of my time on the internet, like every single time, even if I take a break from YouTube, every single time I've stepped away from YouTube, every single time I've come back, thankfully to you guys, and thank God, it has always worked out in some way or another. I have an audience. I have people that want to watch me. Will things always be the same in terms of intensity and how dramatic that comeback is? No, absolutely not. But I've wanted YouTube to be part of my life since I started making YouTube. That is something I've wanted. That's something that I desire. And it's something I truly and genuinely think is one of the reasons why I'm put on this earth. Making people happy is something I've always wanted to do. Helping people has been not only a lifelong goal, but as well as a career thing. I've chosen my career path based off of wanting to help people. So because that was such a strong desire for me, because that was something I truly wanted to happen in my life, it didn't matter how many times I backed off away. It almost feels like when I backed away from it, it came walking towards me 10 times harder. Ultimately, as a 20-something, I'm learning that the only thing ever holding you back from accomplishing the things you want to accomplish and doing the things you want to do, whatever your goals are, is really yourself. Like the enemies and the demons that try to attack you and make you doubt yourself and make you think you're not it, even if you don't have all the means to do so. Work so you can get those means and work to get to those points. It's hard to break barriers, but it's not impossible to break them, is my point. And I feel like sometimes I had a habit of victimizing myself, and I really held onto a spirit of fear, and it's something I struggle with now. One of my things I'm praying on especially is just to release this overwhelming spirit of fear of failure that I have over my life and over certain things, because ultimately if I were to fail, it would have happened so many times ago. And the reason why I'm able to push is because I have this ambition that has been instilled within me that I'm pulling seeds from. And thankfully, those seeds were planted in me from a very young age. So I can never truly give up on myself. And I think that is irreplaceable and priceless when talking about the impact that learning about the concept of manifesting and starting to use subliminals and just learning about myself in that way, in my mind in that way, and connecting it back to my faith and my personal sense of spirituality. I really couldn't ask for a different scenario, and I'm so glad that as I'm apparently in my mid-20s, that is something I'm finally coming to terms with and realizing. I don't know if that made any sense, but okay. OG Truthfully Tiggy asked a lot of questions. There was one that I feel like when I saw, I really wanted to answer, so hold on. Okay, so I'll go with number 3 because I feel like no matter what age you are right now, this is a very relevant question. It says, how do you overcome regret from past mistakes / bad decisions? And the answer is simple. I was gonna say it's never that deep, but sometimes it is that deep. But I'll say it's never that deep. That's really one thing. And number 2, those past mistakes and decisions, whether you like that they happened or not, I would hope at least that the lesson and the retrospective you got from those things will take you a lot farther in life, sooner in life, as opposed to if you didn't experience those things before. It feels awful to feel hurt. It feels awful to feel stupid. It feels awful to feel like you wasted your time. But those lessons truly and genuinely are irreplaceable and priceless, in my opinion, especially when we're talking about the growing pains of just going through your adolescence and going through your young adulthood. Now is the time we're allowed to do these things and to mess up, and so many of the things I used to harp on before don't really matter to me anymore because now I just have bigger problems now that require more of my attention and are actually more heavy weighted in terms of the way they affect my present and subsequently my future in some aspects. But the past literally doesn't matter anymore. You did those things, and we cannot be upset at ourselves as kids and young adults for doing kids and young adult things. I can't stress enough, it's the worst thing you can do to yourself is to not give yourself the grace that you would otherwise give other people. It is okay that you messed up. It is okay that you did this really stupid thing, even if it affects and goes against your moral compass. Like, there's things I did before that I would simply never do now, and truly would never even do then, but whatever, because it goes against my moral compass. But I can't be mad at my younger self for doing that thing because I didn't know any better. Because even if I wish I didn't do those things, you still did them. You still did it. It still happened. The only thing you can do is move on because you cannot turn back the clock. I always like to say and always like to think you have to keep your hands on the things that you can actually control and the things that you can actually maneuver and do things with, instead of complaining and being upset about something you can't change, which is the passing of time. Why even sit there and dwell on it? And it's hard. Like, it's very easy to be very hard on yourself, especially because we're our own worst critics. But like I said, the best thing you can do is give yourself the same grace you would give literally anybody else for the exact same thing you did, especially because, assuming this is in the context of being on the younger side, if you're a teenager, if you're a young adult, if you're an adult even, like, if there's just things you haven't learned yet and haven't experienced yet, you do something that helps you learn those lessons. That's all you could have done because you wouldn't know any better. You know what I mean? It's hard. I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you, but you have to just accept the fact that it's part of life, and the best thing to do is move on so you can move on from it and keep growing, and again, take those lessons with you so that you don't do the same thing again, or at least if you do the same thing again, you're doing it with a new perspective. Another question from this pocket that I liked was, what is the harshest reality you discovered about adulthood? And this is hard because I still don't really feel like a full adult yet. It's hard to feel like that when I still live with my mommy, but a couple lessons I'll say rather. The first one, if we're talking about relationships, personal and self-awareness, it's that you cannot have expectations for people, even the people that you would typically hold on a high pedestal. I'm talking about family, I'm talking about really close and long-term friends. There is truly no one in this world who has your back better than yourself. In the context of myself, there is no one who has my back more than God and myself. You cannot expect anybody to always be on that level you want them to be, no matter how close they are to you, no matter how much they love you, no matter how much you believe that they love you, and no matter how much they believe they love you. Everyone is capable of letting you down in some way. Lots of things are able and capable of letting you down in some way. So not so intensely, obviously, but to every degree that you see fit, manage your expectations, because you will save yourself a lot of disappointment if you weren't expecting that much in the first place, if that makes sense. And number 2 is to never put all your eggs in one basket. I know it's a very common phrase, but literally in every facet of life you can think of, personal relationships, material things, career, anything, never, ever put all your eggs in one basket. Dog, that is literally the worst thing you could do, because we are multifaceted people and life around us is absolutely complex and also multifaceted. So instead of, again, having so much expectation on this one thing, expecting it to work for you or whatever the scenario is or circumstance is, it is so much better to plot yourself in little places. That way, if a thing or someone or whatever falls through, life happens, you never know, you at least have other things to fall back on. And I don't necessarily mean backup plans. You should still be putting your equal energy into many different things, is what I'm saying. That way, you're never completely left empty-handed if something falls through. So those are 2 lessons I feel like I've got whacked, punched, stabbed, bombed in the face with these past 4 years. So take with that information what you will. Tips for making friends as an adult. I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna hold your hand while I say this. Baby, you have to leave the house. You have to leave the house. You have to get up out of that bed and you have to leave the house. The thing is I think people are scoping out for friends in ways that are convenient for them, when realistically, if you want to find friends, you have to inconvenience yourself to do so. You have to be the one to walk up to somebody and be like, hey, what's going on? How are you doing? You have to say hi to that stranger that you always see on that trail you run every single Saturday morning or whatever. You know what I mean? I feel like we are in a generation of people where in a lot of ways we've turned more into ourselves and focus on more of that ego instead of worrying about other people, but sometimes to an extent where it feels very entitled and not productive. It's okay to think about yourself and be in tune with yourself in that way, but you cannot expect other humans to do that for you, because we're also trying to worry about ourselves and not, worrying about everybody else. That's the social aspect of making friends, is to remove yourself from the comfortable circumstance of your own solitude and your own brain and your own way of life, and then going outside and sharing that with somebody else, and or learning and kind of editing your current lifestyle habits to adhere to theirs to a degree, so you can keep hanging out, keep talking, whatever the case may be. The way to not make it so uncomfortable rather is to work with the circumstances instead of against them. I am huge on doing an activity, going to workout classes. People do cooking classes a lot. Going to mixers, it doesn't have to be at the bar or the club, but there are certain restaurants and different things that your city or whatever does to where you can meet and talk to people. If you are of faith and you have a church or something you go to, check out your youth group, something I am planning to do very soon. The key is to go to where you would already want to be and just hope and pray that you can also find somebody else there, because friendships thrive on common interests, obviously. So take that and run with it. Literally join a running club. And you have to break the ice. You cannot expect everyone else to still do that work for you. I know it's scary, I know it's terrifying, but literally just talk and hope for the best. You can have a random conversation with a cashier at a store. Little did they know, you wouldn't even know that they would be so keen on wanting to talk to you if you never open your mouth. And I think that's the key that I'm learning for all aspects of adult life. Open your mouth and talk, and people will help you. I still don't understand what the heck a copay is for insurances. I hardly even know what I'm doing when I'm searching for jobs, but literally I think the adult life is so much easier when you have community. So it is so important to foster it as soon as you can. And it's great because the younger you are, the easier it is. If you're in college, you have that. If you are at a job, it's also, proximity. So it's easier to foster those friendships if you're around each other all the time. But if you're not, you really gotta take advantage of this now, because eventually we might get too old and too busy to where we can't really do that. And you'd hate to be 50 and lonely. So this is a great one. How to deal with negativity that is actively present around you live together. This is not going to be the best advice, because everybody has a way to work with their madness. Everyone has a method to their madness. But it goes back to what I was saying earlier about managing your expectations. It is so much easier to deal with somebody when you're able to see that this is not something you should be dealing with and remove yourself from said situation. My room, if you couldn't tell, is my sanctuary. I love it so much. And it is a place where I have always sought asylum when things go wrong. You just don't want to be out there. Dealing with it is a matter of, one, emotional regulation on your part. You cannot control other things and other people. Like I just said earlier, keep your hands on the things you can control. Otherwise, you will lose your mind. Do not be out here feeding off of other people's energy and being upset at how they're reacting or whatever the case is, because that honestly has nothing to do with you. You cannot do anything about that. However, you can emotionally regulate yourself, compartmentalize, and do what you need to do so you can have the least amount of interactions and encounters with the people and things that they're doing that are bothering you and making you lose your mind. Because I promise you, the worst thing you could ever do is give power to those people in that way to turn you into something you are not. I am not an erratic, impatient, fiery, turbulent person, but of course, piss somebody off enough and they will turn into that, and I would hate that. And that's the number one thing. You never give anyone your power. And it sucks, because I know in situations like this, the one thing we all want to do is blow up. We want to pop off just one time. We want to be the one to blow up. We want to be the one to do all these things that everyone does to us. But trust me, it is the worst thing to fight fire with more fire, because the house is just going to burn down. Be the fire extinguisher, not for everybody else, but for yourself. I'm not telling you to tell other people to calm down, but calm yourself down. De-escalate and regulate is my tip. And if you can, compartmentalize both mentally and yourself, your physical self, from whatever is, bothering you. Because negativity has a really sneaky way of turning you into somebody that you're not. Literally nobody and nothing should ever have that much power over us. And it's important that you find peace and sanctuary in things that ground you instead of things that would ignite and, again, just add more fuel to that fire that you are trying to get away from, if that makes sense. I'll do one more. This is a good one because I feel like it's a nice close. What is one small thing that you incorporate into either your daily mantra or daily routine that has led you to living a better life overall? Prayer. When I say prayer, I'm really referring to any sort of practice or ritual that allows you to kind of just be still for a little bit. Even if it's a really quick 2-minute prayer when I wake up or before I leave the house to go somewhere. Any moment of silence and stillness where you're able to go through your train of thought or anything that allows you to actually sit and be with your thoughts, I think, and truly reflect and apply those reflections is something that gives you peace of mind. I feel like I am somebody who struggled a lot with not repressed rage, but more so repressed emotion. I had so much to say and so much I wanted to express, but I didn't for a very long time because other things were going on and other things were important and I didn't feel as important. You need to lay yourself out somewhere. I don't care if you record voice memos on your phone, if you journal, if you pray, whatever the case may be. You need to be the one to also validate yourself. Go through your thoughts, speak out loud, write something, do something to flesh out your thoughts, materialize it so that you know it's true and real and that you can even also validate those things. You know what I mean? I guess these are also things you could do in therapy, obviously, but just from a self-help standpoint. It's very easy to forget about yourself in the turbulence that is life and the chaos of what we have to deal with every day, especially because there are always going to be problems bigger than us. But regardless of those things, regardless of what anybody says, you and your feelings are valid. You and your thoughts are valid. So they are totally valid in being talked out and fleshed out in their entirety. That is something that's super important to me. And in terms of daily mantra, again, I unfortunately have a habit of moving with a spirit of fear a lot of the time. So my thing is it's never that deep. It's never that deep. Whatever you're worrying about, I promise you it's never that deep. Because not to be, a comparison guy, but I'm like, one, it could always be worse. And two, you're literally going to forget about this in T-minus 2 days. So it's never that deep. And that really gives me peace of mind. Even if it actually is that deep, I don't say it to invalidate myself, but I say it to it is okay. You will move on and grow from this. So don't harp on it too much. That type of vibe. You know what I mean? This was a bit on the shorter side, but I hope you guys got some good advice from this. Again, I like these little quasi vlogmas episodes. I appreciate it so much. As always, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. And if you guys ever have any other questions you want to do for a Q&A, you can drop them in the comments of this video. Be sure to follow me on Instagram at irlanesaintcyrbusiness, as well as my other platforms, and keep up with my community posts for whenever I prompt you guys and do a little call to action for these questions. But again, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. If you're new, I'm Irlane. What is up? Like I said, I'm at irlanesaintcyrbusiness on everything. But that's it. I love you so much, and I will see you in the next video. Peace out.